There's a version of Georgia you see on postcards: Atlanta, a glittering metropolis of glass and steel reaching for the sky; Savannah, with its Spanish moss-draped squares, impossibly beautiful, steeped in a certain kind of romanticized history. It's the Georgia of mint juleps on the porch, of booming business and southern charm. It's a nice story, a comfortable one, but like any good story, it's not the whole story. Not by a long shot. The truth, as it so often is a lot more complicated, a lot messier, and found in the places just off the main highway. Beneath the sheen, tucked away in the folds of the map, are other towns, places where the paint is peeling and the promises of progress ring hollow. These are the towns that time, and maybe the rest of the country, seems to have forgotten. They are places wrestling with ghosts of the past and the brutal realities of the present. Poverty, isolation, violence. These aren't abstract concepts here. They are the air people breathe, the ground beneath their feet. They are the quiet struggles happening in plain sight, if you only care to look. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a ride down those back roads, past the shuttered storefronts and the faded welcome signs. We'll stop and listen to the stories that don't make the tourism brochures. This isn't about judgment or pity, it's about understanding. It's about seeing the other Georgia, the one that's just as real, just as vital, and infinitely more complex than the one you think you know. This is a look at the hidden struggles, the quiet desperation, and the stubborn resilience of Georgia's small towns. Clarkston, Georgia. On paper, it's a success story. The most diverse square mile in America, they call it. A designated refugee resettlement site since the 1980s. You walk down the street and the world walks with you. Ethiopian coffee shops sit next to Vietnamese picho joints. Somali markets buzz with a language you don't know but a rhythm that's universal. It's a beautiful, chaotic symphony of humanity, a testament to the idea of the American melting pot, bubbling away just a stone's throw from the urban sprawl of Atlanta. It's the kind of place that makes you feel good about the world, but proximity doesn't always mean connection. You can be right next door to the promised land and still be locked outside the gates. Clarkston exists as an island. The diverse cultures, the vibrant communities, they're largely contained within this small pocket. The economic opportunities of the glittering metropolis next door. They might as well be on the moon for many of the people who live here. Language barriers, lack of transportation, qualifications that don't translate, these are the invisible walls that keep people in. It's a strange and poignant paradox. Here, in this microcosm of the globe, people who have fled war, persecution, and unimaginable hardship find themselves in a new kind of isolation. They have found safety, yes, but have they found a future? The small immigrant-owned businesses that line the streets are a testament to incredible resilience and entrepreneurial spirit. They are monuments to the will to not just survive, but to build something new from the ashes of an old life. But it's a struggle, a daily grind. They are serving their own communities, creating a circular, self-contained economy out of necessity. The dream of integration, of becoming part of the larger economic fabric of Metro Atlanta, remains just that for many. A dream. They are here, but they are not of here. They are neighbors to prosperity, but not participants. The rich tapestry of cultures is both Clarkston's greatest strength and the source of its most profound challenge. You see it in the eyes of the shopkeepers, the way parents watch their children play in the parks. There's hope, always, but it's a cautious hope, tempered by the reality of their situation. They've already traveled across the world to get here. But the last few miles, the ones that lead to real opportunity, can feel like the longest part of the journey. The social fabric is rich, but the economic threads are dangerously thin. And so the community turns inward. They rely on each other. Churches, mosques, and community centers become the real hubs of life, providing services the government can't or won't. They create their own support systems, their own safety nets. It's a beautiful thing to witness, this fierce self-reliance. But it's also a damning indictment of a system that welcomes the displaced, but fails to build the bridges they need to truly arrive. Clarkston is not a failure. Far from it. It's a place of incredible strength, a living, breathing example of human endurance. But it is a stark reminder that simply opening the door isn't enough. You have to help people walk through it. It's a lesson in the complex, often frustrating reality of what it means to start over, isolated in a sea of unfamiliarity, with the world in your neighborhood, but the American dream just out of reach. If Clarkston is an island of perceived hope, Forest Park feels like a place sinking into the shadows. It's just south of Atlanta, so close you can feel the city's concrete pulse. But this isn't the vibrant, gentrifying South Side you read about in magazines. This is something else. This is where the urban decay that Atlanta tries to pave over seems to have seeped across the county line, settling like a fine gray dust over everything. The feeling here isn't one of isolation, but of being trapped. The statistics tell a brutal story: crime rates that consistently dwarf the national average. Violent crime, property crime. It's not an abstract fear. It's a daily calculation for the people who live here. You see it in the bars, on the windows of homes, the proliferation of security company signs planted in front yards like grim garden gnomes. It's a constant low-level hum of anxiety that permeates the air, a sense of looking over your shoulder even in broad daylight. This isn't the romanticized danger of a noir film. It's the grinding, soul-crushing reality of insecurity. It's the fear of your car being broken into, your home being burglarized. It's the worry that keeps parents up at night, wondering if their kids are safe just playing on their own street. Peace of mind is a luxury that many in Forest Park simply can't afford. It's been priced out, replaced by a weary vigilance. The landscape itself tells the story of decline. Shuttered businesses with sun-bleached for lease signs. Strip malls where the only thriving enterprises seem to be check-cashing places and bail bondsmen. It's the architecture of desperation. The bones of a once thriving suburban community are still visible, but the flesh has been stripped away, leaving a skeleton picked clean by economic hardship and neglect. You talk to people, the ones who have been here for decades, and you hear a familiar story. It used to be a good place to live, they'll say. A quiet, working-class town. But then the jobs left. The state farmers market, a major employer, downsized. The economic floor fell out, and into that vacuum crept crime and despair. It's a story that's played out in 1,000 towns across America, but that doesn't make it any less painful for the ones living it. There's a sense of being forgotten, of being a repository for the problems the big city doesn't want to deal with. The proximity to Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, one of the world's busiest, should be a boon. Instead, it feels like the town just gets the noise and the pollution, while the economic benefits fly right over. The constant roar of jets overhead is a reminder of a world that is constantly moving, leaving Forest Park further and further behind. And yet, people stay. Because this is home. Because moving costs money they don't have. Because they have roots here, however tangled and deep they may be in this troubled soil. They endure. They go to work. They raise their families. They try to build a life amidst the decay. But it's a defensive life, a life lived behind locked doors, under the long, dark shadow cast by the city next door. Some towns are haunted by economic ruin, others by something deeper, darker. You drive into Monroe, Georgia, and at first glance, it's quintessential small-town America. A handsome courthouse on the square, old brick buildings, a sense of history. But history here has sharp edges. This is a place haunted by ghosts, ghosts that have never been properly laid to rest. Because in 1946, just a few miles from here, a horror unfolded that stained this ground forever. It was the Moore's Ford lynching, the last mass lynching in American history. Two black couples, one of them a World War II veteran, were dragged from a car by a white mob, taken down a dirt road, and shot to death. Hundreds of bullets. An act of unspeakable brutality. An FBI investigation followed, suspects were identified, but no one was ever charged. Not a single person was ever held accountable for the slaughter of 4 human beings. That silence, that lack of justice, has echoed through the decades. It's a wound that has never healed because it was never properly cleaned. It festers beneath the surface of daily life. For the black community in Monroe and Walton County, it's not ancient history. It's a living memory, a story passed down through generations, a chilling reminder of the terror that once reigned and the justice that was never served. You can feel that unresolved tension. It hangs in the air, thick and heavy like the summer humidity. The town has struggled economically, like so many others in the region. The textile mills that were once the lifeblood have long since closed, leaving a familiar story of job loss and decline. The downtown has seen revitalization efforts, antique shops and cafes trying to breathe new life into the old buildings. But how do you build a new future on such a poisoned foundation? The economic decline is almost a secondary story here. The primary narrative is this deep, historical trauma. Attempts have been made over the years to confront it. Historical markers have been erected. Reenactments have been staged, not for entertainment, but as a desperate plea for remembrance and justice. Brave individuals, both black and white, have worked tirelessly to keep the story alive, to force the town and the nation to look at this ugly chapter and not turn away. But it creates a deep fracture. For some, it's a past they'd rather forget, a stain on the town's reputation they wish would just fade away. For others, forgetting is not an option. Forgetting is a betrayal. This unresolved horror shapes the relationships between black and white residents in ways both subtle and profound. It's a subtext to every interaction, a ghost in the room that no one wants to acknowledge but everyone knows is there. Monroe is a case study in how the unresolved sins of the past can strangle the present. The economic struggles are real, but they are intertwined with this deeper, moral sickness. A town cannot truly move forward until it fully reckons with where it has been. And for Monroe, that reckoning is a long, painful, and unfinished process. The ghosts of Moores Ford are patient. They will wait. Welcome to the heart of Georgia's peach country, Fort Valley. Drive through the surrounding countryside and, well, it's beautiful. Rolling hills, vast orchards, rich farmland stretching as far as the eye can see. This is the agricultural belt, the place that feeds the state. It looks like prosperity. It looks like abundance. It looks like the kind of place where hard work in the soil should translate to a good life. But then you get into the town itself, and honestly, a different picture emerges. The main drag in Fort Valley tells a story not of agricultural bounty, but of economic scarcity. What you notice immediately is the sheer number of pawn shops, payday loan businesses, and title lenders. They line the streets. They're bright, garish signs promising fast cash and easy money. They are the most prominent and it seems the most successful businesses in town. And that right there tells you everything you need to know about the local economy. These businesses don't thrive in prosperous communities. They are predators that feed on desperation. They are a symptom of a deep-seated economic sickness, a sign that for a large portion of the population, the traditional banking system is out of reach. When you have more places to pawn your grandfather's watch than you do to get a small business loan, you have a serious problem. It's a landscape of last resorts. The irony is brutal. Surrounded by land that generates millions of dollars in agricultural revenue, the town itself is bleeding out. The money from the peaches and pecans, it seems, doesn't stick around. It flows out to corporate landowners, to distributors, to places far from Fort Valley. What's left behind is a community struggling to get by, living paycheck to paycheck, or, more accurately, loan to loan. You see the human cost of this. Folks are trapped in cycles of debt, a car repair, a medical bill, an unexpected expense. These are the small emergencies that can trigger a downward spiral. The payday loan with its astronomical interest rate is a temporary fix that creates a much larger, long-term problem. It's a system designed to keep people poor, to extract what little wealth they have. Fort Valley is also home to Fort Valley State University, a historically black university that should be a powerful engine for local development. It brings youth, intelligence, and energy to the town, but there seems to be a disconnect. The opportunities for graduates in the immediate area are scarce, forcing the best and brightest to take their talents and degrees elsewhere, contributing to a constant brain drain that the town can ill afford. So you have this strange duality, the serene, beautiful farmland, and the grim, predatory economy of the town. It's a place where you can literally see the fruits of labor all around you, but the people who live there can't seem to get a taste. It's a stark illustration of how wealth can be extracted from a place without benefiting the community, leaving behind a hollowed-out town where the only growth industry is debt. There are different kinds of isolation. There's the economic kind, the social kind, and then there's the geographic kind. Montezuma, Georgia, feels geographically stranded. It sits on the banks of the Flint River, a town that feels a long way from anywhere. The highways seem to bypass it. It's not on the way to a major city or a tourist destination. To be in Montezuma, you have to want to be in Montezuma. And, increasingly it seems, fewer people do. The river that gives the town its location is both a source of identity and a recurring threat. The history of Montezuma is a history of floods. Major floods in the 90s and smaller ones since have ravaged the town, destroying homes, businesses, and crucial infrastructure. The water comes up, and every time it recedes, it takes a little more of the town's life with it. It's a slow, relentless erosion, not just of the riverbanks, but of the community spirit. This physical isolation has profound consequences. One of the most critical is healthcare. For a town with an aging population, access to doctors and hospitals is not a convenience, it's a lifeline. But here, specialized medical care is a long drive away. The local hospital closed years ago, another victim of the economic realities of rural healthcare. A minor health issue can become a major crisis when the nearest emergency room is 30 or 40 miles down a two-lane road. This lack of access creates a constant state of vulnerability. It affects decisions about where to retire, where to raise a family. How can you stay in a place where you're not sure you can get the care you need in an emergency? It's a quiet, insidious pressure that pushes people out, particularly the young who might want to stay and care for their aging parents. The town is slowly bleeding its future. The downtown has a faded, forgotten beauty. Ornate brick buildings from a more prosperous era stand half-empty, their windows like vacant eyes. There are efforts to hold on, community events, festivals. But there's a sense of fighting a losing battle against geography and demographics. The population shrinks, the tax base erodes, and the money needed to repair the aging, flood-damaged infrastructure just isn't there. It's a vicious cycle. The isolation and lack of services drive people away, and as people leave, the town becomes even more isolated and less able to support the services it needs. It's a slow-motion collapse, happening in one of the most beautiful pastoral corners of the state. The people who remain are resilient, bound by a shared history and a deep love for their home. But love can't fix a washed-out bridge. Love can't staff an emergency room. In Montezuma you see the brutal endgame of rural decline. A place where the tyranny of distance and the cruelty of economics conspire to leave a community stranded, watching the river rise and the rest of the world drive on by. Some towns are so small they barely register on a map. Microtowns, unincorporated communities, places that exist in the cracks. Hilltop in Pike County is one of those places. It's not even a town really, it's a collection of houses, a crossroads, but this tiny community has earned a reputation that far outweighs its size. It's known for one thing: crime. A shocking, disproportionate amount of it. For a place with only a few hundred residents, the stories that come out of Hilltop are the stuff of urban nightmares. Drug busts, violent assaults, murders. It's a concentration of lawlessness that seems almost impossible for such a small, rural area. It defies the stereotype of the peaceful, quiet countryside. In Hilltop, the quiet is menacing. The darkness at the edge of the woods feels like it's hiding something. The isolation here is a different beast. It's not just geographic, it's social. The community has become notorious, a place that people from surrounding towns are warned to avoid. Don't go through Hilltop after dark, they'll say. This reputation creates a wall around the residents, stigmatizing everyone who lives there, whether they are involved in crime or not. The good people, the families just trying to live their lives, are trapped in a place defined by its worst elements. Law enforcement faces a huge challenge. It's a small area, but the problems are big. It's a classic game of whack-a-mole. You deal with one problem, and another pops up. The criminal element is entrenched, and in a community this small and insular, fear and intimidation can be powerful tools to ensure silence. Speaking to the police can have serious consequences when the person you're reporting on is your next-door neighbor. This creates a palpable atmosphere of fear and mistrust. There is no sense of community peace, no feeling of shared safety. Instead, there's a siege mentality. People keep to themselves, they lock their doors, they don't trust their neighbors. The basic social contract that holds a community together, the idea that we're all looking out for each other, has been completely shattered. What causes a place like this? It's a perfect storm of poverty, lack of opportunity, and generational neglect. When there are no jobs, no positive outlets for young people, the drug trade can look like a viable career path. It's a cycle that, once started, is incredibly difficult to break. The problems are passed down from one generation to the next, becoming more and more ingrained in the fabric of the place. Hilltop is an extreme example, but it's a powerful one. It shows what can happen when a small community is completely cut off from the social and economic mainstream. It becomes a vacuum, and that vacuum is filled by the worst aspects of human nature. It's a micro town with macro problems, a stark warning that the deepest struggles are sometimes found in the smallest, most forgotten places. There's a certain kind of pop culture tourism that's become a phenomenon. People flock to see the diner from Seinfeld or the steps from Rocky. In Georgia, for the last decade, that meant one thing: The Walking Dead. Fans of the show have made pilgrimages to the small towns where the zombie apocalypse was filmed, and one of those key locations, the town of Woodbury, the fortified sanctuary run by the villainous governor, was largely filmed in Woodbury, Georgia, a case of a town playing itself. The eerie part is how little set dressing was needed. You drive into Woodbury today, years after the film crews have packed up and gone, and the resemblance is uncanny. It's quiet. A little too quiet. The main street, with its historic storefronts, has a preserved and amber quality. It doesn't feel like a living, breathing town. It feels like a set, a place waiting for the cameras to roll again, or for something much worse. The comparison to a horror film set is more than just a superficial one. The show chose these locations for a reason. They looked like places where society had already started to crumble, where the veneer of civilization was thin. Woodbury, the real town, has been struggling for a long time. The population is tiny and shrinking. Businesses have a hard time staying open. The life has been draining out of it for years. The show brought a temporary economic boom. Locals got work as extras. Businesses got a boost from the cast and crew. But like a traveling carnival, once the show moved on, the town was left behind, perhaps even quieter than before. The brief taste of economic vitality only served to highlight what was missing. The tourists still come, snapping pictures of the buildings they saw on TV, but that's a fleeting, superficial economy. It doesn't rebuild a community. There's a deep, unsettling melancholy to the place. It's a town famous for playing a fictional, post-apocalyptic holdout, while in reality, it's fighting its own slow-motion apocalypse of economic decay and depopulation. The line between fiction and reality becomes blurry. The empty storefronts don't need fake cobwebs to look abandoned. The silence doesn't need to be engineered by a sound designer. For the residents who remain, it must be a strange existence. Living in a place that is, for millions of people around the world, a symbol of a fictional struggle for survival, while they are engaged in a very real, much quieter, and far less glamorous struggle of their own. Their fight isn't against hordes of the undead, but against apathy, economic gravity, and the simple fact of being left behind. Woodbury is the ultimate metaphor for some of these forgotten towns. It's a place that has become a ghost of itself, its identity now inextricably linked to a fictional version of its own decline. It's a beautiful, haunting town, but it's haunted not by zombies, but by the much more terrifying specter of what happens when a town's most famous role is playing a place at the end of the world. So, what do you do with this knowledge? What's the takeaway after a trip through the bruised heart of the Peach State? It's easy to look at a place like Forest Park or Hilltop and just see blight. It's easy to romanticize the tragedy of Monroe or feel a kind of detached pity for the folks in Montezuma. But that's a cheap and easy out. That's just poverty tourism. And it's not the point. The point is that these places, these struggles, are not an aberration. They are a part of the American story. The part we don't like to tell. These towns are not failures of character. They are, in many ways, failures of a system that prizes corporate profit over community well-being, that funnels wealth upwards and outwards, leaving little behind. They are the result of conscious decisions made in boardrooms and state capitals far away. But they are also places of incredible, stubborn, human resilience. People fighting to keep their towns alive, to raise their kids, to maintain their dignity in the face of overwhelming odds. That's a story worth telling. The connection we're looking for isn't just about us observing them. It's about recognizing a piece of ourselves in their struggle. It's about understanding that the health of the whole country is tied to the health of its smallest, most vulnerable parts. Ignoring them doesn't make the problems go away. It just lets the rot spread. So the next time you're on the interstate, flying by at 70 miles an hour, maybe take the exit, drive into one of these towns, buy a cup of coffee, look people in the eye, listen. Because the real Georgia, the real America, is there, waiting to be seen.